Hey there, Marina. Hey, hey,
Good
hey.
morning.
Good morning.
Good
Good
day, good
morning. I
afternoon for
don't think,
you.
yeah, I don't think our timing was perfect with that one, but we'll do better next time.
How are
How are you
you?
doing? I'm
I'm
good. I'm
ready.
good.
It's Monday. We have a great program
Monday,
today.
Monday, Monday. Yes, yes. It's a beautiful week. I think it's. I checked this morning. It's week 43 of the year already. Um,
Wow, wow.
yeah, yeah, crazy. But yeah, we're the tournament is underway. There's some
Yes,
amazing projects. Yeah, I synced
44
up
of them.
44. Yeah, I synced up with
Uh-huh.
a few of them recently. Yeah, there's some really incredible stuff being made there. Had a call this morning with one builder as well. I can't remember the name of the project. They're doing some pretty cool stuff. A lot
And
of
we're
cool stuff
connecting with
happening.
5 conferences around the world. So that's also making sure that it's as global as possible, right? I mean, we have 183 makers on the platform already building for this. So it's kind of exciting. They're competing for 2.5 BTC in prizes, and submissions are due December 10. So it's coming. They have 1 month to go or less. No, 1 month to go.
Yeah,
So
about 1 month still. Yeah,
today, we are very lucky to have Gabriel Comte from Lipa joining us. He's going to be showing some tools of the company, and so we're going to bring him up to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Thank you,
Gabriel,
Marina.
welcome.
hey there, Gabriel.
Thank you. Hi.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. Excited for this one. This is a first for me. Uh, I've been
This is
teaching only face to face. Now we do it online. Let's see how it goes.
Well, you have the coolest photo of all on our banners, by the way. I like it. It was very cool to see a very different photo. It shows your
Okay, at
creativity.
least that one. Yeah,
It
okay,
showed your
okay, nice.
creativity. So,
Yeah,
Gabriel,
thank
tell
you.
us about the company. Tell us about yourself, your journey into Bitcoin, how you became a programmer, a Bitcoin Lightning developer. Tell us about yourself a little bit.
Yeah, well, I got into Bitcoin a while ago already, and I was like very fascinated by it. I was uh, an IT student basically, and I came to it from the technical side. But as I fell down the rabbit hole, I learned a lot about many other very interesting aspects like economics and yeah, social, game theory and these kind of things. And so I like it happened to me like to many other people. I just wanted to learn more and more, and it became clear to me that I need to invest a lot of time into this to learn it, such that I could get a career in this field. And that's what happened. Basically, I started working on Bitcoin in very small projects in 2018, and since 1.5 years, I'm working full time on Bitcoin at Lipa.
Got it. And so tell us about Lipa. Tell us about the company. I know it's based in Switzerland, but tell us how that makes it unique. And I understand Switzerland is not part of the EU, so it's a little bit different. Tell us more.
That is correct, Marina. This what you just said with that it's not in the EU turns out to be beneficial for Switzerland because our regulations are a little bit less strict than in the rest of Europe, basically. And so what we've seen happening in the last couple of years is that many European Bitcoin startups um, were created in Switzerland or moved to Switzerland because it's just easier here. And so we are one of them, and we are focusing on the German-speaking market because that's what we are, German-speaking. And what we're doing is we're building solutions for mobile, basically Android and iOS. And we have so far two products. One is a point of sale solution. So we want to make it possible for merchants to accept Bitcoin through their smartphones for their sandwiches or whatever. And on the other hand, we want to also have a product for the buyers, right? So we are also building a Lightning wallet, but this one is yet to be released. It should come out before the end of this year in a beta version. Yeah.
And you're connecting to an exchange. Tell us a little bit about that. Is that also part of the roadmap?
That's right. We work together with Pocket, and we want to enable our users to top up their funds when they spend some sats, right, to buy some stuff. Because so the idea here is like spend your Bitcoin, but then replace them, right? So
that sounds good. Make sure you spend and hodl at the same time somehow.
Exactly.
Right?
Spend and replenish. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for the presentation that you're going to be giving now. As you mentioned, we shouldn't be spending mainnet coins when we're testing and in development. And I feel in Bitcoin, the testing environment, the testing tools and stuff like that, I find like it's not common to use it. A lot of people don't know about them, right? The testing networks and stuff like that. So it's just, and a lot of the wallets and stuff like that, the mobile ones, they're just all configured for mainnet, right? There's not a lot of like configure for testnet kind of mode. So it makes it very difficult if you want to scan a payment on your web app or on your whatever with a mobile device. You can't switch to testnet or anything. It doesn't work like that. In our ecosystem, but you've been developing for a while. You've been creating some amazing software on Bitcoin. You have your strategies on how to do it, and you have some tools that you're going to be showing today, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I agree with you. The idea is to use testing networks instead of like real Bitcoin for testing your software, because of course it's costly if you have to pay transaction fees, but also if you have a bug or make an error and you lose your funds, that hurts a lot, of course. And then even on top of that, for us as an entire community, when we're using the main chain for testing, then we're kind of spamming the network, right, with stuff that is irrelevant in a sense. So yeah, that's why it's very wise to use.
That's a controversial one there, spam. It's like, once you pay the fees, it's is it considered spam?
Yeah, okay, right. That's a philosophical question. Let's not get into that fight right there.
But there's a lot of things that you would want to be able to test out. It could be kind of like throughput, to see if your scripts are running correctly, if your backend's running correctly. You want to make like a lot of, you want to fill up the mempool or whatever, like whatever your app is. You're not going to be able to do that on like main chain, right? There's dust limits, there's an actual like cost to it, and you're losing precious Bitcoin and making all the miners happy, which is great. We need them, so if you want to make miners happy, test in production. Sure, if you need a bit more robust thing, if you value your Bitcoin a bit more and you're a developer, then follow what Gabriel's going to show you now.
So do you want us to bring up your screen? Are you ready for us?
Yes, for sure.
So adding it to stage.
All right, Gabriel.
All right. Thank you.
We're going to leave you in charge.
All right,
here.
so thank you. So you can see these slides are online if you want to look it up yourselves. You can find them on this URL. And so what I'm going to speak about is development tools, and particularly testing networks, as we've discussed about. I just want to make clear that this is not stuff that we are developing as LIPA, but is tools that we use ourselves when we are developing our products. So yeah, Bitcoin networks, we have already spoken about it. There is, of course, the mainnet that everybody knows. This is just when we regularly speak about Bitcoin, then we just refer to the mainnet implicitly, kind of. But that's not the only Bitcoin network that is out there. There's also testnet and signet and regtest. So yeah, what do all these do, and how do they differ from each other, and so on? And that's what we're gonna look into right now. So let's start with testnet. When we speak about testnet, then usually we mean the testnet 3, which is a testnet that has been introduced with the Bitcoin core version 0.7, and its first block was mined in February 2011. So it is already a quite old testnet. And yeah, what are the details of the testnet? Like, how does it differ from the mainnet? Well, the idea was actually that it shouldn't really differ from mainnet. Like, it should be as close to mainnet as possible, because you want to test the mainnet in a sense, right? So there's only small changes that have been made to testnet. And so what was necessary, of course, is to change the ports that are being used, such that that the testnet blocks and the mainnet blocks don't get mixed up and so on. So you basically communicate through other ports. And also address types have been changed a bit, such that you wouldn't accidentally send mainnet coins to a guy when he asks you to send you testnet coins, and you would accidentally use the wrong wallet or whatever. That would be bad, right? But because we have different address types, this cannot happen to you, actually. And yeah, the Genesis block is also different, but it's just like all these small things just to make sure that you are on another network and not on the mainnet. Then there is another interesting rule, which is that the mining difficulty is being reset if no block has been found for 20 minutes. So this is just like to keep the network alive, and not like if somebody drove up the difficulty and then you would have no other block for 14 days or whatever. That would be quite bad. Yeah, and then there is something else. Testnet coins don't have any value, but this, of course, cannot really be done programmatically. So that's not like a technical thing. This is really just a consensus that we want to have in the community. So yeah, testnet coins don't have any value. Now, what kind of tools do we have to work with the testnet? So basically, the Bitcoin Core software can also run a testnet. So you just have to change the parameters such that you can run it on testnet. And then what you have on testnet, which is unfortunately not common, or not actually, you don't have it anymore at all on mainnet. But on testnet you still have it, is faucets, which is basically a place where you just can, a website where you can get some coins. If you don't have any testnet coins, you can either mine them, but in practice people would usually just go to a faucet and get some coins. Yeah, like I said, there were in faucets on Bitcoin mainnet in the very first year, I guess, in 2009, where you could get even 5 Bitcoin. So that was a cool time. Lucky the ones who were already on Bitcoin back then. Then we have block explorers like mempool.space also has a testnet. Yeah, let's look at this. There's also a testnet site. It basically looks the same, but it's just here you can see that is a testnet and it's not the mainnet. Blockstream.info is also a popular block explorer. They also have a testnet version, basically. Now, let's look a bit at the testnet challenges. I mean, of course, as we've discussed already, testnet is something you would want to use to test your software. And what is difficult with that, basically? So one problem with what I said at the beginning, that you want Bitcoin to be, you want the testnet to be the same as the Bitcoin mainnet, as close as possible, right? So what that means is it's actually the same proof of work hashing algorithm that is used for mining. And that is a problem because sometimes, you know, ASIC miners might come along and go into testnet and mine a big amount of blocks just in very short time amounts or so on. Or like in general, like there's so much hashing power on mainnet, and if some people for some reason decide to take a part of it and use it on mainnet, then these changes that happen to the testnet are just so enormous that it's actually not natural at all. So in a sense, by trying to be similar to the mainnet, in practice, it almost came the other way, because what we have on testnet is a very unreliable mining behavior. So you can have sometimes a lot of blocks and then not so much mining for other days, right? And so you can even have things like reorgs, so chain reorgs for 1,000 blocks, right? So you have, what that means is you have already 1,000 blocks mined, but somebody goes back and mines these new from scratch, so that the other 1,000 blocks basically become invalid. And this is just like not really what's happening on mainnet. So in that sense, it behaves very differently than the mainnet. Also, because of the difficulty that is kind of manipulated in a bit, like I said, after 20 minutes, the block, the difficulty drops down to 1 again. Basically, because of that, we have, even though the testnet started 2 years later than the mainnet, we can see that we have a lot of blocks mined already. So if you go on mempool.space, you can see here we already have 2.5 million blocks that have been mined, while on mainnet we're actually only at block 813,500. Oh wow, what a nice number I just got. Yeah, so what that means, because everything else is similar to the mainnet, is that actually on testnet we have already had 12 halvings. So that's quite a lot. That means that if we do the math here, oh yeah, this equation isn't finished, but what I just wanted to show is like the block subsidy that we have in a block now on testnet is only 0.014 BTC. In fact, we can look that up here. But, and so yeah, you can see here the subsidy and the fees are 14 BTC. So it's really not a lot, and that actually causes a problem because in practice, it turned out that testnet coins are really scarce. Like the mainnet coins, the block subsidy is at the moment at 6.25 BTC, right? But the testnet coins, in a sense, are even more scarce than mainnet. And yeah, this is how it looks like for Bitcoin devs. Sometimes it's really hard to get these coins, and it's also kind of interesting from an economical point of view because, like I said at the beginning, we want testnets coins to be for free, basically. We want them to not have any value, right? But in practice, we also know very well as Bitcoiners, if something is scarce, then that drives up its price, right? So it's kind of hard to keep it for free because it's so scarce. And what you could see every now and then is that somebody tries to sell testnet Bitcoin. Here is a guy that responded. It's so scarce because the block subsidy is so low. So that's the new Bitcoin that are being created with every block. And this is the case because the difficulty is being kept low artificially, right? So that's why we already had 12 halvings. So
and nobody's complaining. Where do they come?
Yeah, it is a problem.
Everybody's complaining.
We're getting to that. Everybody's complaining. Exactly. That's what this picture is trying to show.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, this guy, that was an answer to me when I posted on Twitter, actually, this picture. So
can you read it out loud? I don't think we can see that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's just saying, like, I got one testnet Bitcoin. Would you exchange it for 0.1 mainnet Bitcoin, in a sense? Right?
So he was selling it to you.
Exactly. So please don't do that. That's something we really don't want to do, but we don't want to have. We want them to be for free, such that we can test our software for free. But it's just, I find it interesting that the scarcity automatically creates value, and people are realizing that and trying to sell them. So anyways, it's a solution. It's a situation that is not very good for us for testing our software, right? And so how can we solve this? Like, why don't we just initiate a new testnet, right? And that's something that we could do, and maybe there will be one at some point when the situation gets even worse. However, the problem here is that you basically need to move the entire network onto a new testnet, right? So what I mean is, like, you don't only change your settings to the new testnet, but you want your peers to be on the same network as well, right? And then there's also these services that I spoke about, like mempool.space. They would also have to have a new version for this new test network, and so also we have a Lightning Network on testnet, and it's kind of like these channels would have to be reopened on the new testnet network as well, right? And so it's kind of like tricky to it's a non-easy thing because so many people need to update their software into a new testnet. But I guess at some point we'll have to do that anyways. But this is the state that we have to deal with for now. However, there is also Signet, which which was developed with these issues in mind. So Signet is a newer test network than testnet, and the idea here was that we should centralize the mining essentially on purpose, right? So in a sense, it's the same as testnet with the same, also the same goal, but what it requires is it doesn't only require the proof of work, right? Not only the mining, but on top of that, each block also requires a signature from somebody who has the corresponding key. And so the idea here is really just like somebody can create a signet and he will be in charge of that signet and only he can produce blocks. And because of that, the block production becomes a lot more reliable, because this guy would then just like have a script or something that would just mine blocks whenever he thinks it makes sense, right? And so you would get a much more reliable block production. You wouldn't get reorgs like that are 100 blocks deep or whatever. And on the other hand, what you could even do is you could make it reliably unreliable, right? So why would you want to have it at least a little bit unreliable? Well, because you want to mimic the mainnet, right? So on mainnet, you can have a reorg of 1 or 2 blocks, or you can have it that for 30 minutes there's no block, and then within 6 minutes there's 3 blocks or whatever. So that's of course possible, but yeah, it's just because only one guy is in charge, it's much easier to mimic the mainnet version, basically. And so on Signet, we also have a couple of services. There's also the mempool.space website that we just saw for Signet. And there are also faucets. I linked them here because this stuff is a little bit less known than the testnet, so maybe it's a little bit harder to find these services than for the testnet. And there is also a web wallet and even a mobile wallet. This one is only for Android. If we check it out, you can find it under releases. You can see that they have a Signet version here. So yeah, that can be very helpful if you want to test your software, because indeed it's very hard to find even testnet wallets. I don't know any testnet mobile wallet that does Lightning. But on Signet, we have this one. And then, of course, with all of them, you can do, if you have like a Bitcoin Core and an LND or whatever on top of it, they support these networks. But like mobile wallets, it's really hard to find. Then you also have block explorers. I think this one is the one from Blockstream, just a clone of it on Signet. Exactly. Now, what kind of practical challenges do we still face with these test nets when we're using them to testing our software? Well, with testnet, what is interesting is like it's terribly unreliable. Now, I said already that the layer 1, the block production, is unreliable, but on top of that, the Lightning Network is also much more unreliable than the mainnet, Lightning Network. And the reason for that is probably a simple one. Just because these coins have no value, people don't care so much about how their node is operating, right? If it's down, they don't really care. If they just like don't want to do it anymore, they maybe just turn off their nodes and leave their channels open because they don't care about the coins. And so these channels are still there on the network and in the channel graph, but they cannot be used anymore. And so it just becomes a lot less reliable. Exactly. And with Signet, we probably have kind of a similar problem. The block production, like the layer 1 is expected to be more reliable, but the Lightning itself, of course, because the coins are for free, are again probably not being, the nodes are not being cared of so well as on mainnet. But yeah, the bigger challenge with Signet is that the network is still very small, but it's growing, and I would recommend everybody to go for Signet. I mean, maybe it's not even the best solution for you guys, but it would be cool for all of us, or the rest of us, because if we can slowly move onto Signet rather than testnet, we will have it better, like all of us, because of more reliability and more available coins, basically. Right. So here's the thing, because both of these test networks are kind of difficult to deal with sometimes, and there are some services and solutions that do not support either of them. So we work with Breeze SDK, for example, and for now they only provide mainnet. And so before we worked with LDK, they had these testnet and Signet and support and so on. But now with LDK, we basically, for testing our software, we have to send around mainnet coins, which is bad. But yeah, not everybody supports it because of the unreliability.
So why was it a good idea to use the Breeze?
Well, the Breeze SDK is...
if price is not a good...
It has other like big benefits, like Breeze SDK is a very fast possibility to get a essentially non-custodial node onto the mobile phone. But this is an entire talk on itself. Well, you just use it because it's a good solution, but it's more like, why are they not using testnet, which would be very helpful? And I know that they don't like that either, but they need to fix some stuff for themselves first. Like, they are depending on Greenlight and they don't support it so far yet. So I think they will at some point provide it, but it's just not there yet.
So it's like time is money, right. And so it's a really good solution. It has a lot of options for you, and that is worth the investment in a way.
Yes, that's right. Correct. Okay. Yeah, I spoke about this, and I'm a bit bad in timing already. A bit behind. So, I say that already. Okay. Okay. Now let's look at the last network, which is the regtest network, the regression test network in its full name. And this idea is more like this network is more, the idea is to use it in a local development on your machine, basically. So the idea here is not to test with different devices and with different companies and so on. That's where you would use these other networks that I just showed. But here, like, the external connections are even disabled. So yeah, that's not the idea here to do that. And on the other hand, the difficulty is set to none, to 0. So you can basically mine blocks yourself, as many as you want, and very quickly. So that's neat. But the idea for regtest is also that it's usually being very short-lived. So you just want to test something. Maybe you have a couple of integration tests that run on regtest, and so you would spin up your network. You would do a couple of tests, and after 1 minute already you delete that network again. So that would be typical use case for regtest. But basically here with regtest, you are at the wheel. So that means like you can do whatever you want with it, and you're the only one doing things with it. So you are in full control. But that also means if you want to have a block explorer or whatever, you can't just go onto a website, because you would have to run that on your machine as well, right? So basically, regtest is the perfect playground for you to play around with your software, and it actually makes sense to test your software with that if you're just like running on one machine, and the other networks are more for testing across like multiple services or multiple people or whatever. Right, so let's play around with that regtest a little bit, and I want to speak about Polar first. We're going to use that in a second, but what it is basically is it's a tool with a GUI that lets you pull up an entire regtest network, and it gives you beautiful graphical feedback. It is Docker based, so you need to have Docker installed to use it. And here's the website where you can download it. They are open source, so you can also find them on GitHub. So let's have a quick look at it. I have Polar installed here already. And so what I can do now is I can create a new network, and I tested this before. I had problem with Eclair node, so I'm not going to create an Eclair node, but let's say maybe I want to have three LNDs and one core lightning node, and maybe like 2 Bitcoin cores. And let's call this demo, and I create a network. Now, what you can see is like, I already see a network graph here. And this is not just visual. There's actually Docker containers behind all of these instances. So with start, I can start all these Docker containers. And now with the blue dot, you can see that they are starting. And now they are green. And so everything has already been started. And so we have on one hand, we have the layer 1 here. This is just Bitcoin Core running. And on the other hand, we have all these Lightning instances. And so what I can do is like I can create a channel by just pulling from Alice to Carol. And so it asks me if I want to open a new channel. And here I have even a flag that, I mean, Alice doesn't have any money right now, but here I'm just saying, okay, before you open a channel, deposit some money for her. And so I can just do that quick and easy, and everything is happening in the background. And so there is a real regtest channel being opened between these two LND instances. And so, yeah, let's open a couple of other channels, sorry. And so maybe even one to Bob. And so what I could try now, for example, is I could try could I like send a payment from Alice to Bob. Let's see if it works. I could create an invoice, let's say 50,000 sats. I copy it and I pay it from Alice. And it worked. And now we can see, let me reload the graph, like the visualization exactly. Now it shows correctly. You can see even the nice visual feedback of the channel balances. So the green here, the green part is Alice's balance, and the blue part is Carol's balances. And you can see that how it went through the payment went through all of these channels. And so this is really cool for visualizing stuff, and it's a very nice tool for demonstration purposes, I would say. Yeah, so the idea was that you could have hands-on and like do work with Polar yourself and try it out, so you could, you know, create your own network and open a couple of channels and send sats back and forth and whatnot. And yeah, just like play with it so that you learn it and get better with it. Now, we don't have time for that right now. Maybe at some other point you will want to do that. But one of the challenges is this one. So let's try this. I find it very nice to see that in Polar. So I already tried it before. For some reason, it didn't work with LND. So what I'm going to do is like I'm stopping my entire network here, and I'm even deleting it. So everything is gone. And then I create a new network, and I want to work this time with only CLN, basically core lightning nodes, right? And so, yeah, let's just take one Bitcoin Core for now. Okay, and then I start it again. And now what I want to do is like I open 2 channels from Alice to Carol and Bob. It takes a while because it's like really doing something under the hood, right? I mean, there are really these CLN nodes communicating with each other through my local Docker network. And so let's do so like this also, and another channel then from Bob to Dave. Okay, so now I have set up the network as I wanted, and now all these channels were the capacity of 250,000 sats, so, right? So what I want to try now is like, I want to create an invoice that has more than these 250 sats, let's say 350 sats. And I want to see if I can pay that from Alice, because none of the channels is big enough, but if she can route through both of them, then that would be enough, right? So let's see. And it worked, but it didn't update the graphical user interface. So we can just update the graph here. And now we see with the change of the color, the payment indeed went through both paths, which is amazing. Yeah, exactly. Now, one last thing I want to show you. Let's create another invoice, and let's make this way too big, and let Alice pay it again. And what will we see? Okay, well, this is different than what the LND shows. Whatever, you obviously get an error, which is the node is somehow saying it cannot pay, because it's quite obvious for us, right, that there is not enough capacity there. All right, that's that. Let's move on with Nigiri. Now, Nigiri is kind of a similar thing to Polar, but it is headless. So headless means it has no GUI. Sorry, this one it shouldn't say with GUI. That was a copy paste error here. So Nigiri has no GUI, and but it's also Docker based, and because it has no GUI, it's programmable, and that can be very handy for particularly for automated tests, right? And we use these extensively at Lipa. So they also have a website. You can go there and download it, and they're also open source and have a GitHub page. Okay, now let's check out Nigiri. So you would start it with, yeah, so you can start Nigiri like this. However, then, yeah, okay. Oh, maybe I'm still running it. So Nigiri start. Let's see. Okay. Well, perfect. Now that I want to show it, it doesn't work anymore, but before it worked. Oh yeah, so it is now not running, interestingly, because the ports are being used already. And I assume this is Polar that is also running on Docker and is using these ports. So I stopped my Polar now, and let's see if with Nigiri start, if it works now. And now I see that it's spun up a couple of Docker containers. Now with Nigiri stop, I can stop everything, and I do that because actually we want to Nigiri start it with --ln. So we only started the base layer before. We really want to start also Lightning nodes, right? So that's what we do with Nigiri start --ln. Now I have also an LND node and the CLN node available. And so I can play around with these now. I can, well, basically, I can access through Nigiri LND, I can access my LND node and I can do things. I can use the regular LND commands here, like get info, right? So it shows my node, it shows like what my identity pub key is and so on. And so now let's try to open a channel from LND to CLN, for example. So what I would want to do is like, I would get the info from Core Lightning so that I get the ID. And from here, I would now start, like with that, I could start a connection from LND towards CLN. So Nigiri LND connects, right? This only does the network connection. It doesn't open a channel yet. And so how we do that is we post we put the identity key here and then the network and the network address, right? And in this case, we can just give the name of the Docker container, which is CLN. And then the port is shown here. And so this should create a connection. And we have it. So no error was being printed. So that means it worked. Now, since we have that connection, we can now open a channel. So let's try that. LND open channel and then the ID. And we say maybe like 100,000 sats channel size. Let's see. And now, of course, LND complains that it doesn't have enough money to open that channel because, in fact, it has 0 funds. And so with Polar, we had that like very convenient function that we could just hit the flag that it should deposit funds onto the LND before it opens the channel. Here we have to do that manually. And so what we could do is like we could, with LND, we could create a new address, pay to witness key hash or something like that, and we could get an address and we send money to that node. However, Nigiri comes with a handy function as well. And so what we can do is we can just do Nigiri faucet LND. And so it automatically gets an address and puts funds on that in one go. And so now we can finally open the channel. So let's see. Yes, that channel opening now worked, and we get the transaction ID of the channel funding. And so now we can see whether we can see our channel here. So Nigiri LND list channels, and actually we don't see any channel yet. Why could that be? Well, if we check out pending channels, Nigiri LND pending channels, then we can see that our channel is actually here, but it's pending. So what is it waiting for? Well, of course, it's waiting for the generation of new blocks, right? It wants the opening transaction to be confirmed on the blockchain. So with Nigiri, we can actually do that. Let me see, generate, exactly, that was the command. With Nigiri RPC generate 10, we can generate 10 blocks, right? So now I just quickly generate 10 blocks. And if I now look up my channels again, then I can see now I have a channel. So yeah, that's that. You can do a whole lot of things. We could send payments around now since we have a channel, but since I'm running out of time, we're not gonna continue here. Yeah, you can also here try yourself sending sats and whatnot, and closed channels and open channels, however you please. And here are a couple of helpful commands for you. These are basically the ones more or less that I was using before. Just like when you write Nigiri LND, and then you can just use all the lncli commands afterwards, right? This is actually an LND command. So lncli get info is what usually works if you have a node running on your machine. So for every command here that is possible, if you want to know these, you have to look it up on the RPC description of Lightning Labs LND, right? And the same for CLN. This is just a CLN command. But so with these couple of commands, you can already do a lot of things on the regtest network. Yes. So there's another project that is kind of similar to Nigiri, which I just learned about recently. I didn't really look into it so much yet, but what they say is like they're a testing toolkit. It's also headless, but this one is Kubernetes based. And so, yeah, maybe something for you guys to check out. They are on GitHub. They are still like in their early days, but what it looks like, or what they're kind of promising, is that they want to kind of like give a nice toolkit with different test scenarios and so on, because right now every Lightning developer is testing for similar things, but has to write all of these tests themselves and so on. So yeah, something interesting to dig deeper into, but yeah, we don't have the time now anymore. Yeah, that was basically everything about the Lightning test networks I have for you. I just have a couple of other tools that might be helpful for a hackathon that I would like to present to you.
Please.
So we have, yes, we have invoice decoders. So let's see, my Nigiri is still running, I think, right? So we could create an invoice. Whoops, add invoice. So I take an invoice, and now I'm going to this lightningdecoder.com, and I can enter it here, and let's close this. And then I see like everything, you know, what chain it is on, regtest, that's correct, which public key I'm sending to, and whatnot, like all the information that is in that string, that is contained in that string in a human readable form. There are other invoice decoders like lndcode.com, which is kind of similar. One that I really like as well is Bolt 11, because again, you can take that invoice that I've just created, add it here, and then if you go over it, you can actually see for every part what it means, right? So here we see BCRT is kind of like defining the coin network or whatever. Yeah, so yeah, it's very cool to learn about how Lightning invoices work, or like what's contained in them. Then we have Lightning Explorers. I think everybody knows about these already, just for the record. So check these out if you don't know them yet. They are important. And if you're working with LNURL, then check out lnurl.fiatchef.com. It's a very nice playground to if you want to test things. Last thing we have, what I would recommend to you is there's even more tool on Jason Locke's list here. So he has a DevTools list, and so it's very like he has a lot of resources here, and even beyond that, there's like so much good stuff. So check it out and learn for days if you want. Yeah, that's it. Time's
How
over.
deep down the rabbit hole do you want to go, right?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for problem solving in real time. I mean, this is exactly what people want to see. I mean, it takes forever to learn, but seeing you problem solve live really makes a difference. And you know how you work around and how you go back, and how you realize that there was something in the background that wasn't working, and you were still connected to Polar. So that I think shows people that you just have to test and problem solve as you go.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest part of programming, right? Trying to get things working again. Right. So
Perseverance.
Do GW says, where do I see more of your work? How do people find you?
Well, every now and then I post something on Twitter. So can I write into the chat, I guess? My Twitter handle is this one. But if you're specifically asking for work, then GitHub is probably better. And so this is my GitHub account.
That's the Twitter.
Yeah, and then if you want to know more about our company, maybe visit lipo.swiss. So this is the stuff I'm working on, basically.
Nice. Amazing. Thank you so much, Gabriel. Really appreciated this. Yeah, it's always been I think that's something that we haven't been able to yet communicate to the full extent that you have done today to our makers. It's a super critical part of like setting up your local environment for testing. Sometimes, and people aren't able to be online all the time as well. So having things like Polar to be able to do some of these offline, it's fantastic. So really, thank you so much again.
And I just posted again where we can find your slides so that people can go back to this back and forth and make sure to go to all of the tools that you listed.
Sure, yeah. Perfect, yeah.
And you also mentioned
the pleasure was mine. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Go.
I just said the pleasure was mine because you guys go thank you and stuff, but yeah, it was fun for myself to share. It's always good to share.
You said earlier that you don't typically do the virtual classes and stuff. Maybe you could tell us a bit about what classes you typically put on.
Well, I didn't do so much like classes. I more like do talks every now and then at a Bitcoin event or whatever. But in fact, recently I've gone to El Salvador and I did give classes to IT students there. This was a program called Cuba Plus, and it was absolutely amazing. Like we were 2 weeks living together with the students, basically, and learning all day and eating together at night. And we even hiked onto a volcano together on Sunday. So it was very intense, but yeah, it was a very beautiful experience. You know,
How's
to
your Spanish? ¿Cómo está tu español?
bastante bien, la verdad.
Ah, qué bien,
Hey!
maravilloso. Ah, you see,
Yeah,
There you go.
but that
my
that didn't
background
come
is
from only
German,
these
but I
2
don't
weeks.
speak German.
Yeah.
Just the last name. Well, so nice to meet you. And next time in El Salvador, you come visit Torogos Dev, another program we're running there too. So we'll be very happy to have you and host you as well. When can we see you again? Will you be presenting at another conference soon, just so that we tell students to go see you or listen to you again?
For now, I wouldn't know. I have some time off now.
Okay, good. Take it
Going to
off.
the Canary Islands, but yeah, at some point there will be more for sure. Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for listening.
And we're signing out from Legends of Lightning. For now, we have another session up in a couple hours.
Yes.
And yeah, so we'll see you soon. Gabriel, stay on the line. Look at this awesome promo that we have, and then we'll stay in the background for a little bit. Okay.